Hello, welcome to pro tip number 65. Today I'll be talking about the Aggregated Asset Insights. That's the title that I've given it. What I mean by that is, and as you can see on the screen already likely, is we're looking at the multi-site view. Now, that is specifically for MSPs. If you're not an MSP, don't click away just yet. We'll get to the meat of the pro tip soon, and I believe there's some things in there as well that will be of use to even if you're not using or managing multiple sites at once. If you're just using one site, it's also something that you might be able to use. But we'll start off with the multi-site view. I wanted to quickly give an overview or at least highlight the key unique capabilities of this multi-site view in case you are not yet, or in case you are an MSP that isn't enrolled in our MSP program, or if you're interested in becoming an MSP or something along those lines, just to show you what features are in here. To start off with, I'm already on the screen of Aggregated Reports. As you are managing multiple sites, you can run reports individually on each separate site, or you can use this multi-site view to select any report, any default report that we have, and you can then select that and run it across all the sites that are within your management. Once that is run, you can export it and you can do whatever you want with the data as you're used to. Take actions, put it in reports to present it to your customers, etc. Additionally, on top of that, we have aggregated custom views. So the main difference between them, and when I go to my views as well, the main difference between them is that, as you can see, you can get the results immediately within your interface. So you can have basically an instant look at some of the data without having to export it first. This is more for like on-the-fly things that you'd like to see. Where maybe you're troubleshooting or you're more interested into why are these numbers the way that they are, if you've gotten like aggregated numbers from somewhere and you want to dive a bit deeper. We'll get to a practical example of this later down the line as well. Now, since this can only run on some default reports, luckily I have the capability to create default reports. I've gotten feedback from some of the people within Lansweeper that the MSPs, they want to have some more visibility on, like one of the main topics is, what are my billable assets? How much might I be paying next month? Specifically, if you have a pay-as-you-go kind of arrangement with Lansweeper, you'll want to know what the current status is of how many assets do you have under your complete management, so that you can at least do some forecasting or have some better control over how much you might be paying next month. That being said, the billing overview, I believe, only gives you a number at the end of the month. So it's not ideal. For that reason, I've created a few different reports. We'll go through them. I'm going to start with just showing them here. I've tagged them all with MSP. So if you already have access to the multi-site view, you type in MSP in the search box, they'll all be there. Now, to show you what they all contain, I'm going to just jump back, go into my own site, and then head over to reports. Search here for MSP, and here they all are. They all tagged as new as well because I just added them, and we can go through them one by one. So starting off with the total billable asset count. Very simple. This just gives you one number that shows you the total number of billable assets. Why have I called it billable assets? Well, because not every single asset within your inventory is counted towards your license. Obviously, we make the exclusion of monitors. With the note attached to it, we exclude monitors that do not use the enhanced monitor scanning or that have the extra monitor data. If you have the extra monitor data, it does count as an asset. So I have made sure that in all of these reports where it mentions billable, it does not include assets that or it shouldn't include assets that don't count towards your license, meaning any monitors that don't have that extra data, they will not be included in that number. This will give you an accurate number. Again, if you run this from the MSP portal, this will also give you obviously an extra column that shows you the site ID. So you'll know what site it is coming from. So it's not that you'll just get 5 numbers and you'll have to guess. It'll give you the site number or the site ID, so you know what site it's coming from, so you can distinguish it between all the different customers. You can add it all together to get your total asset number that you have across all of the customers that you have or all the sites that you manage. And that way make some more predictable or some forecasting as to how much you'll likely be paying, or at least you'll get a current status. Next up, we have, I've gone a bit deeper in like the billable asset count one to give you like multiple options depending on how granular you want to see this data. Second on the list here is billable asset type count. This is basically the same thing that I just showed you, but now just grouped by asset type. So you can see for each asset type how many assets that you have that count towards your license. Again, if you run this from the aggregated reports area, you'll get this plus a site ID, so you know what site ID it is coming from, which customer that you manage it is coming from. Next up, another level deeper is asset type and install key. What does install key mean? These are the IDs of the installations linked to your site. So as you can see here, I have more than one installation linked to my current site. That's why there's multiple IDs and spread out a bit. And that's why you can see, let's say, multiple records here. You can see that for Apple, for Mac, I have 3 different installations here. One is returning 1 Apple Mac device, one is returning 7, and one is returning 60. This is just for you, again, to dive another level deeper. If you want to know specifically what site, because if you run this aggregated, again, it will add site ID. You'll see what site it is coming from. You'll see what asset type it is, and you'll even see what installation it is coming from. If there's any specific installation that all of a sudden has a massive increase in numbers, you'll be able to see that here then. You'll be able to find out why is this number all of a sudden going up so much? Has my customer gone into their installation if they have access and changed, or has somebody on my side changed something in regards to scanning targets as to why this is going up all of a sudden? Has my customer deployed a bunch of new machines in that installations subnet or in that installations scanning ranges? Whatever it might be, this will give you the information of at least that there are changes happening, or that you'll see numbers go up or so all of a sudden. Then moving away from just asset count, because obviously that's interesting, but moving more towards kind of the management side of things, or we have one last thing actually about asset counts, and that is the new assets found in the last 7 days. Something that, again, I've given here, I've given the most granular view here. You can always, when you run this, you can always remove columns and things like that once you export the data. But I just wanted to give the most detailed view, so that way you can always get less detailed. Getting more detailed would require me to publish more reports. So that's why. This will give you a count of the new number of the new assets found in the last 7 days. If it's something where every single week you run this to basically do a weekly status update of your customer's environment or whatever, you can use this to run it every single week and take a look and see where changes might have occurred. Then you can use that again to investigate why these changes occur. Do these changes, these devices, do they adhere to policy, etc., etc. That's where, by the way, the aggregated custom views come in. Maybe it's a good time to jump into that since we're talking about that. This gives you, like I showed, this gives you a nice number. You'll see, 23 Linux, 1 virtual machine, 10 Windows from this installation, 53 from that installation. Great. But what if you want more information? That's where the aggregated custom view comes in. So I'm going to quickly swap back to the aggregated custom views here. Under my views, I created, as I showed earlier, the assets created in the last 7 days. And instead of just getting a big number, which is great for just a quick view, quick status update, etc., now I get the actual list. So if I want to know, I saw 53, Windows machines, well, here they are. You can see exactly the details of them. You can adjust and customize your custom views to whatever you like. Let me swap back to my site. Oh, no, actually that will need to be in one of these sites. I don't know if it shows me. Yes, demo sites. Let's go to the demo site here because this is where this custom view will be. Custom views. Here we see assets created last 7 days. If I want to customize this, add additional data points, I can do that. If I want to change the filters, right now it's set at created at last X days 7, so last 7 days. If I want to add additional filters, all that sort of stuff, I can add it and get more information there. So adding back, so yeah, basically, if you want to get the more details, you'll use the custom view for that. Where indeed here you have all the data. As I showed you, you can adjust this to whatever you want. So that is going back to it. There's my site. Going back to this MSP, and then we'll open this one last time. So that's how you go from these general numbers, which are great for just like a general overview, to the individual data points that you might need to troubleshoot, to investigate why there are increases, why is it changing, etc. Then, now for real, we're going to move away from assets because we're also going to take a look at software. This is just another example of something you could do. Software added in the last 7 days. This gives you an overview, again, similar to the assets in some way. Gives you an overview of all the software names, software publishers, and when that software got added. Also, for information, I've added the first install date. This is not a 100% reliable field, as you can see. I'm pretty sure this requires the operating system or the individual software package to record this data somewhere on the OS. If it does not, we cannot retrieve it. So it is important, I guess, to add to this that this is not necessarily software that is new to your environment. It is software that has been installed in the last 7 days. So it is not necessarily unique software or anything like that. It just gives you an overview of what software basically has been installed in the last 7 days. You could theoretically start adjusting this report, adding things like, this software is approved, this software is not approved. But then again, there's that downside of only being able to run default reports as aggregated reports. So you can take this, adjust it, and run it on an individual site basis. So you can run it on each separate site and look at the results. But for the aggregated one, you'll have to use the default ones, unfortunately. For now, I'm sure we're working on that to fix that or change it. So yeah, this just gives you an overview. Obviously, you can change the sorting on this. You can take a look at what has been installed the most. I can see here some of my Linux software has been doing updates. So I can see that here as well. Again, you can use this for compliance reasons, just to manage the software situation in your customers' environments better. Again, if you run this as an aggregated report, it'll tell you what the site ID is as well, so you know what site it is coming from, and all of those things. So, having run through all of the reports, hopefully these are useful if you're an MSP. If you're managing someone or multiple sites, hopefully these reports will be useful. If you have other reports that you would like to see, if this puts your mind, triggers something that's like, hey, I wish we had this kind of report. This would be very useful for us as an MSP. Always feel free to sound off somewhere and let us know, whether it's one of your Lansweeper contacts, and they will know where to find me. Or if it's just in the community, we post these pro tips on the community as well. You can comment on there as well. I'll see those comments as well, and take a look at what we can do later down the line. Now, the last bit I wanted to touch on is notifications. I know this is a big thing that a lot of you are waiting for, want, need, in order to manage not only your customer's organization, but just your own organization. Actually, a few weeks ago, was it a few weeks? No, it was the end of last year. I did a pro tip on our new Flow Builder feature that is now in beta. Some people have access to it, others do not. If you want access, go to our website. There's a beta page somewhere there. You can sign up for it. But that being said, I did a pro tip last year, where I showed off how you can create notifications with Flow Builder in what then was the internal version that we had of that feature that we're working on to get out as soon as possible. I will show again now how you can do that for some of these things. Specifically, I'll focus on the first one here, the total billable asset count. It won't be billable asset, it'll just be total asset count. How you can do that, it'll be very simple. On top of that, if you are someone that prefers to work on-prem or that cannot wait for either for you to be accepted into the Flow Builder beta program or to wait until it's released, one of actually my second pro tip ever that I did, which probably was a number of years ago, I also showcased how you can use email alerts reported, or like email alerts basically in Lansweeper Classic, and how you can use that in order to create email notifications. Both of these things, both the pro tip that I did end of last year, as well as the second ever pro tip that I did that talks about the Lansweeper Classic method, both of those will be linked in the blog version. So if you're watching this, head over to the blog, you'll find the links there. Now, going over to Flow Builder, I'll have to switch sites real quick because I don't have access to it on this site. I'll have to go to this one. Flow Builder. So my goal was really just to show off how you could easily create a notification that shows you how many, or at least when you've gone over your asset limit. This could either, again, you could either use this for your own asset limit if you're using this as an individual customer, or if you're running an MSP, you can set this up for each of your sites. And that way you'll know for each site when it goes over its allowed asset limit. If you have a license that is just like based on like a pay-as-you-go license, you'll likely still have asset limits in the contract with your customer, so you can then set that limit to what you have agreed upon in the contract. So let's take a quick look at it here. These are quite or relatively easy. It starts with a trigger. This is a universal webhook trigger. Only thing I changed here is I set the response code to 200, or the content type to application/JSON. And this should allow us to trigger this flow with a webhook. Now, there is some complexity to this. To get the webhook to work, you will have to go into your profile setting here, create under like the developer tools, you have to create a webhook. And then if you want to know what the payload URL or callback URL should be that you have to enter there, you can find that when you click on here under trigger payload. So you go to test configuration trigger payload, that will give you the URL that you need in order to send something to this webhook and to receive it all, etc. That's also where you configure what triggers the webhook. What I did is I triggered it on asset creation. You could also trigger it on asset creation and asset deletion. Both of those are fine, I think, to use. So that's the trigger. Then I promise now it becomes a lot easier. We use the action list all of the assets. So it goes through, lists all the assets. I'll actually do a quick run here. And actually I can see here that it has been triggering already, but it will do it again right now. Just a manual trigger then. You'll see it goes through the trigger, then it will list the assets. So it'll list all of your assets. I have this evaluate expression, which refers back to my results of my list asset and deducts 4,000 from it. In this theoretical example, I've said that my limit, or the limit that I've arranged with the customer, the thing that I've agreed with them, is I manage, or they're allowed to have 4,000 assets. So I deduct 4,000 from the total, and that will give me a number. Then if that number is greater than 4,000, it will post a Slack message. If not, it does nothing. Now, my Slack message is something like, your site has the number that I calculated here, assets above the allowed limit. Obviously, if you also want to see it, how many there below it, or something along those lines, you can fully adjust this to change the message whatever you want. You can change your site to have an indicator of what customer this is coming from. Regardless, that's how it goes through, and that's what it does. Now, to quickly look at the list of assets result here in my steps that I see here of when I manually triggered it. You can see that when you do the list your assets action, you can go manually and look at all some data of your assets, very basic data of your assets, but it also gives you a total number and also a limit number, which are both the same. Not quite sure why, but this is where I take the total number of assets that you currently have. So just to clarify, this does not mean necessarily the total number of billable assets. This will include monitors that don't have the extended data scan to it. You could start excluding that. Maybe I would have to take a look at it to see if that data is available in the API. But in any case, in this example that I've given is just a total number, just so that you're aware that this is just a total number. This does not take the monitor situation into account. So that all being said and done, I've triggered it. It has seen, as you saw actually here, I have 4,090 assets, which means I'm 90 assets above my theoretical limit. If I go over to my Slack channel that I connected to it, and you can see I've been testing that a bunch and it's been running over time. You can see here that your site has 90 assets above the allowed limit. That's the notification that came in. That's what got put into Slack. So, I mean, that's just a basic example of how you can use at least Flow Builder for the notifications for your MSP purposes, or if you're managing multiple sites, or even for your basic if you're just using one site, if you're not an MSP. Again, if you're more interested in this, go to the blog. There's a pro tip from last year that I link there that has more examples like this in it. And I'm sure we'll be doing more things around this as we get closer to providing this available for everyone, and getting everyone's hands on this so they can try it and use it themselves. So yeah, that I think that pretty much does it for this week's or this month's pro tip. Again, if you want to see more reports that are related to MSPs, if there's something specific that you need, you're always welcome to comment on these pro tips on our community. Talk to your Lansweeper contact, let them know, and I'm sure they'll know where to find me as well. I'm just here to explore and see how I can make your life a little bit easier and show off new things that you might not be aware of what you can do with Lansweeper. So let us know. I'll try and take a look at it, especially if more people ask for it, if a lot of people ask for it. But I hope that this was useful for you. I hope that if you're an MSP, if you look at this, I hope that this helps you in keeping or managing your customers' infrastructure. And if you're not an MSP, I hope some of these can be useful regardless to you to get a better overview of like what changes have been happening in the last days or weeks in your own specific environment. That'll be all for me for this month. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next month. We'll see you next month.